There we go. Starting recording.
Gotcha.
Okay, we're recording. Behave.
I was totally behaved until up till now. All right. All right, guys. Welcome to the Building Ambition podcast. I'm your host, Adam, joined as always by Mr. Ben Simonak. And Ben, you made a 3-hour trek in the snow back to the studio to interview an author who didn't show up. So now we are here. You're safe and sound. You had an interesting weekend. I enjoyed the stories that led up to this. How are you doing, man? How was your week? What's going on?
I'm doing great. I'm not saying I deserve a medal for this, but some
You
sort of
do.
accolade would be great.
I
Uh,
just gave you.
that's all I get. That's fair. That's probably all I deserve. But no, I'm doing good.
That's good. This is so good for how we're going to segue into our topic here in a little bit. How we feel like we need rewarded. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
no, go ahead,
exactly.
man. Talk about the weekend.
I didn't
Everything
fail
going
the
on.
drive. The drive failed me.
Exactly.
The weather wasn't perfect. So yeah, it was a pretty good week. Everything was pretty straightforward. Had a nice meal prep. Everything went smooth in that regard. Everything eating went good. So having fun there. Went down to Madison, which is the big thing, and I got myself into a live time suck by Dan Cummins. I know I've spoken about his podcast, the Time Suck podcast, quite a few times on our own podcast. And he has live shows that he does in conjunction with his comedy tours. And it was an opportunity to go see it for real, see the live thing. And it was, a pretty cool experience. A little weird listening to a live podcast because it would be like if you put a chair somewhere. Well, I guess it's not between Adam and I because
Yeah.
well, actually, statistically, there probably are people with chairs
people-
between you and me.
Yes, definitely.
Between Ohio and Wisconsin. Imagine you put a chair right there and tried to listen to both of us at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's you're sitting back in silence, listening to essentially a podcast, but it's being played out live. So there is a little bit more crowd interaction. There are visuals to go with the podcast,
Okay.
but it was all just
Excuse
pictures.
Yeah.
So some of them added to the gag, like, okay, just taking funny pictures of the guy, all that good stuff. But yeah, all in all, like, good time. I had some fun down in Madison, as we always do. Then got to drive back today in pretty rough snow, but welcome to Wisconsin. It's actually been, I think, the worst winter I can remember.
Really?
School's been canceled for 7 days already this year,
Mm-hmm.
which very rarely happens. But between negative 50-degree wind chills and getting 8 inches of snow in one night multiple times, it's been pretty rough. But whatever, shrug it off. It'll be March soon enough, and then it'll have all the snow melted, and it'll be hot, and then it'll be April, and the snow will come again. We'll complain about it, and then the cycle repeats. But all in all, I'm in good spirits. I'm healthy. I'm all in one piece and can't complain too much.
Yeah. Yeah. It has been, I would say, somewhat of a rough winter here in Ohio, but we've only had like a month of winter. And I think that's what got us spoiled. Like there was days where it was 50, 60 degrees, then it dropped back down to 20. And I've been sicker than a dog all weekend. I was actually in bed for about 16 hours straight yesterday.
Ooh, that's a good run.
Yeah. Just doped up like Mucinex and NyQuil. But I mean, it makes my voice sound great for the podcast, so that's pretty cool.
There you go.
Yeah. But it was starting to snow here before I came down to the studio here, so it remains to be seen how much we get. I'll have to walk upstairs for that. But, oh, man, I'm glad you had a good week. I had a pretty good week here in Ohio as well. Unfortunately, and this is a little shop talk here, but I mean, I would assume that most of our listeners know I'm a wrestling coach, and we had our big crosstown rivalry match this week. My first experience here with the whole Dover Philly thing, and It's one of the second oldest. Like I think it's the second or third oldest rivalry in the state. Like football's huge when it's
Right.
over Philly. So we had the wrestling match, and we ended up losing by 4 points, and it was like one of those things where I didn't sleep that night, just going over all this stuff in my head and just pissed off and don't like their coaching staff. And so that made for kind of a rough end of the week. But leading up to it, man, like the hype and even though it's, wrestling season, which it's not basketball, it's not football, but it was still like the hype was there. The excitement was there. It was fun to be a part of. And we're heading into our league tournament next weekend. So, it's hard to beat somebody, 2-3 times in a season. So I think we've got that going for us. But it was a fun week nonetheless. We had a great turnout. My whole family was there. So that made it fun. I just wish the outcome was a little bit different. But other than that, man, it was a great week. Like I'm still treading water. I'm keeping up with my schoolwork.
Well, it sounds like you're doing better than treading water.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to get too, braggadocious here, because then anytime I compliment myself, I'll get DM on Instagram like ego, bro. To read that book again. But yeah, I'm doing pretty well with it. Straight A's right now. Yeah, and my eating was on point. My training's going good. Like, a month into the new year, I'm feeling pretty good about myself. So it's all good stuff, right?
Yeah. Now, is this the point where you look over your shoulder and wonder when's it going to fall apart? Or are you good right now?
I'm good. I'm
All
not.
right.
I'm not really. Leading into the decision and everything that brought me to this, I had a lot of anxiety. I was worried about a lot of things, but I was the guy that for how long would come on here and preach about, you just go. You got to go. You got to do it. And now that I'm in the thick of it, it's like, well, we're not going back. I can't go back and change things, right? Like
Right.
the only option right now is to succeed. So I'm just going to keep slugging away and just putting the work in every day consistently. Yeah, man, I'm not worried about it, because I'm just going to keep staying ahead and keep working hard, and whatever happens, good, bad, indifferent, I'm just going to adapt and move on. Like that's what I was talking to my wife about it. She made the comment, you were so concerned about finances and things of that nature, and we've been fine. And then I look back and it's like, well, I made this decision in November, so it's been November, December, January, and we're just, February is a short month, so I'm about 4 months into this, and it's like we're still here, we're doing okay. It's like, you know what I mean? Like just go on now at this point. I know things are going to get more difficult, and course load is going to increase in the summertime, but it is what it is. Just keep working hard. And I think the thing that helps me out the most is I don't want it to sound like I'm not prepared, but I don't look too far ahead in the future. It's like, all right, we look at what we have to do this week for this class, break that down even more. And we've talked about this before. What do I need to do this day to make sure I reach this goal by Friday or Saturday or Sunday or whatever it might be? Okay, now what do I need to do in the next hour to make this happen? And for me, it's been kind of like, what are the next 3 things that I can do that's going to keep me ahead? So on Saturday or Friday night or whatever, I can make sure to devote that entire however many hours it might be to the family. And so far it's been working out. So I actually, and you and I didn't talk about this yet, but at the end of the podcast last week, I told you I was kind of always frustrated and jealous about your Socratic knowledge and your knowledge about regarding philosophy and things like that. And I think you took some courses in college, correct? Regarding some of that stuff?
Yep, I took an Eastern Asian religion class. I took an Old Testament class.
We didn't ever talked about that.
Yeah, that was freshman year. That was just exactly what I needed. Freshman year of college, living out on your own, get to have a good time, and then your required course reading is like the Old Testament, where God's bringing down his wrath on everyone for doing pretty much what you're intending to do the second you put down that book. Thanks, Bible. Real pick me up. Yeah, my friends would come over to pregame on Friday. We're getting out, getting rowdy. Like, oh, let me read you a passage from my latest book, the Book of Job. So here we go.
Yeah, God completely decimates this guy just to test his faith. Yeah, he's up
exactly.
in boils and his whole family's dead. I'd like to have a shot now. So
wasn't this because he was drinking? No, those were the other people. We'll get.
Yeah.
If you guys want me to read that, that's like next week, but I can jump ahead in the syllabus.
Right. Yeah. So, anyways, I've always been kind of. It's something I've always been interested in. I've never been able to make myself do the required reading on my own. It's like without having somebody to hold me accountable or whatever. I'm just not going to do it, or I'm not going to get into it. I'll get into it. I won't understand it. I don't have anybody to bounce these ideas off of. So it's just like, I just give up. Right. Oh, I found, and actually shout out to another podcast who might be a fun, if we could ever schedule an interview with him. But the Art of Manliness podcast is one that I regularly listen to. I don't know if you tune into that one at all. Do you?
Yeah, occasionally. It's pretty good. I like it. He's not as like hardcore as Lewis Howes is.
Right.
How like Lewis gets up on his high horse very often. Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name from The Art of Manliness, but like he does a very good job. It's all well researched and well thought out. He's good at speaking, good at thinking, good at interviews, and very high quality podcast there.
Yeah. So a while back, and this, I mean, it could have been even last year. Brett McKay is the gentleman that runs that.
I thought it was Brett.
Yeah, he had a gentleman on there named Scott, who is a strength coach. I think he's a biologist by trade. Just kind of a manly dude, right? Kind of fits the theme.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Scott also wanted to get into all of this reading and, put down some of the books about doing squats and stuff like that and get into something that goes a little bit deeper into philosophy and culture and things like that. So this guy started this online book club, which is called Online Great Books. And they have this reading list based on Mortimer Adler's, reading list from like 100 and some years ago, maybe.
Right.
And it's like the 100 great Western books, and it's Plato and Socrates and the Iliad and Odyssey and all these other things. So they kind of build a schedule around, reading these books once a month. And then what I thought was cool was they created like this online community where you have to go in and check in and say, hey, are you keeping up with this? Are you not? And then once a month, you have like a 2-hour lecture or 2-hour meeting where you're discussing the big ideas of these books so you can kind of understand them a little bit more and how that's going to scaffold into the next set of reading and stuff like this. So I went ahead and joined. They sent me my first book here, and I'll show it to you. So because I know we're recording as well, the video. So I got a book, How to Read a Book, by Mortimer Adler here. And when I got it, I'm like, well, this kind of sucks because I can read already. So I'm going to be getting into it.
Bro.
Yeah, right. But what's interesting is just kind of going through here, the table of contents. It's like the first level of reading, elementary reading, how to be a demanding reader, how to read practical books, how to be an imaginative reader, suggestions for reading stories, plays, and poems. So it's like all the different, like there's even a chapter on like reading mathematics and science and philosophy and things like that. So that's first on the list. And then we get into, I think, the Odyssey, perhaps maybe next month. But what I'm really excited about is then, like I said, once a month, you get online on a Sunday afternoon or whatever, maybe pour your favorite bourbon or beer or whatever, and then you talk to these guys. And there's a guy that kind of leads the discussion. I think the gentleman that's leading mine, he's a professor out of the University of Chicago or something like that. So, I mean, to have access to that, and then other guys that are reading the same stuff, and to actually be able to talk about it and hold you accountable, I think it's going to be kind of cool. I'm really excited to get into it. So we will see how that goes. Yeah, on top of getting my master's degree, coaching, all these other things, I thought, why not? Let's throw that on top of everything. So
Yeah, exactly.
We'll see how it goes. Yeah, but I'm excited nonetheless.
Yeah, it sounds very cool. I'm interested to hear your review on how to read a book, because as you were saying that it's talking about things like how to read fantasy, how to read plays, how to read poems. And I don't know if I necessarily agree that there is a right way to do it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Since it is an art form, you're trying to interpret the art however you see fit, which is a big problem with modern art, is that everyone interprets it as garbage unless you're super pretentious.
Yeah.
But it all is up to how that should be seen. Now,
Mm-hmm.
for books, I think it's the same way. And in science and mathematical journals, I believe there is one way to read that if the author did their job and laid the data out scientifically and perfectly and correctly. But for these plays and poems and all these other artistic types of writing, I don't know if there is a right way to read it, and I'd like to hear what
Yeah.
he has to say about that.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, I'll be getting into that tonight. And what's another thing that I kind of liked about this is it's not a huge time commitment. They said, because I reached out to him, I emailed him, and I'm like, look, I've got a lot going on. This is something that I want to do. If I keep putting it off, I'm not going to do it. I said, but I'm a coaching, I'm teaching, I've got a family, and then working on my master's degree. I don't know if I can keep up. And he said, we tell you, you need to read an hour a night, 3 nights a week. And I was like, well, that's pretty doable, right? Like when you're planning stuff out for the following week. And then I started thinking about this, and I'm kind of embarrassed, but I want your take on this too. I don't know, like since the first time I graduated with my undergrad, if I've ever sat and read for an hour straight. If it wasn't like I was trying to cram something in because
Right.
of the quiz that I have coming up. Like, I don't know if I've ever sat down and read, one of my strength and conditioning books, or just one of the other ones that I enjoy. If I've ever actually sat and done an hour straight uninterrupted. I think I'm always, grabbing my phone, getting up, doing something, I think primarily I could probably stop with grabbing my phone.
Right.
I don't know if I've done an hour straight. I know that sounds kind of sad, but can you relate to that at all?
No, I'm trying to think, and yeah, if I didn't have my phone around, I think I could do it, but I don't think I have done it uninterrupted without, anyone breaking in saying, "Hey,
Yeah.
need something from you," or me just being an idiot and looking at my phone, going on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or whatever for like 45 minutes of the
Right.
1 hour, because there's always something new there. Like I have sat down and read for a few hours in a row. I
Mm-hmm.
can say for sure I've done that, but I can't say for sure if I've done that without any interruption. So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty challenging. But if you do your 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off thing,
Yeah.
you're still going to be getting benefit out of that. Maybe not to the extent that they think or whatever,
Yeah.
but you can still
One,
segment it and get
I
going.
think that 5 minutes off is really important, and especially for me. And I've been doing it with some of these assignments that I've had since going back, for my master's. I just feel like I think better when even if I don't go and do something, if I just get up after 20, 30 minutes, walk upstairs and get a drink and then come right back down, it's so much different than trying to just grind, there's our favorite word, through for like 45 minutes or something like that. Those brain breaks are important, I think, at least for me. Maybe that's just the way that I learn and become fluent and comprehend things.
Hmm.
But I really feel like there's something to that, and that's that whole Pomodoro effect or Pomodoro system of 20 on, 5 off, or just those ratios of like
Right.
rewarding yourself or whatever. So I'm going to sit down, after this, probably when the kids go to bed, and do an hour. But I'm leaving my phone out in the kitchen away from me. I've got a space where I know I'm going to go and put it, do everything, set an egg timer or a kitchen cake timer or something for 20 minutes on, 5 minutes off. But just try to resist that temptation of picking my phone up. So we'll see how it goes anyways.
Yeah, it sounds like a very interesting thing to get into. Very cool that you have that opportunity, that you're going to go search down these different avenues of knowledge. That I think there is a good point. Like, put down the books about squats. They haven't changed yet. They've yeah. No one invented. Well, I shouldn't say that. Idiots on Instagram invent new ways to squat all the time. But there has been essentially a way to squat right for thousands of years.
Yeah.
They're not going to figure it out on February 11th of 2019 and say, nope, guys, changing it up. Changing it up this time. You want your hands on the ground the entire time. It's going to change the way you squat forever. Never going to happen. So go out, read the classics, expand your knowledge in other avenues. And I think by doing that, you are able to draw parallels that other people can't see inside your own preferred field, no matter what that is. Anytime you expand your knowledge outside of where you have your specialty, you should be able to draw from that, even just little bits and pieces, as I've done on here before, because everything is interconnected if you want it to be. And there are different ways of thinking about things, different mental models if we want to go down that route. But if you have all this different knowledge, you can think about problems in different ways. You can think about solutions in different ways. You can just think about your entire life differently, other than I'm going to squat.
Yeah. And for me, kind of trying to, what's the word I'm looking for? Not bust into this side of education, or just to learn different things, or whether it be, philosophy or cultures or things like that. I feel like it's going to make me a better coach when I'm relating to young men in high school. Because, and I was just having this conversation when I was getting ridiculed because we lost our rivalry match. And I said, you know what? Wins and losses, like, that's how we're going to measure success on paper when it comes to our wrestling season. But for me, the success comes when I see, and this remains to be seen because I've only been doing it for a short time, but in my mind, what success is going to be is creating or helping to empower young men to be strong as a man, to be the leader of their family, to be great husbands and fathers, and to be leaders within the community. Like, that's, to me, if you're a great coach, that's how you measure your success, at least in my mind right now as a young coach new to this. So I feel like maybe getting this set of knowledge, or, breaking into something like this, is going to help me accomplish that goal anyways. Right. Long-winded way of saying that. But I mean, and I'm sure, like, you think back, and we've talked about this before, like influential coaches, it goes beyond, the X's and O's of drawing up a blocking scheme, or, how are we going to do this blitz or something like that. It's lessons that I took from my first strength coach on, how to be a good man, how to treat my girlfriend better, how to be a better son, things like that. Like, that's what I remember getting from him, and that's right. That's what I want the boys to think about when they think about me 15, 20 years down the road. So, and not only, I feel like it's going to make me a better father too, raising my son and my daughter. So, I don't know. I don't want to get too philosophical, but that's kind of my thought process going into this.
Yeah, like I said, very interesting, and it'll be a cool thing to just be able to learn through you, I suppose. Yeah. Is going to be the best way to put it, because it sounds like you are reading classic literature that I really haven't had delved into myself. I'm familiar with them. I know the authors' names. I'm aware that Homer wrote the Iliad and the Odyssey, but
Mm.
couldn't tell you much about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it'll be fun. I'm sure it's going to be challenging, but hey, why not? That's what we do here. So, all right, man. Well, we drug that out there as long as I could, longer than I should have. So let's take a little pause for the cause. And when we come back, I think we're going to have a fun little discussion about an article that I uncovered um, on the internet. So, guys, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Feel like I need to stretch before this, or like just get loose. gonna get blasted with a take right now.
No,
Oh,
you're.
also we should have talked about football in the intro. Now that football is finally back.
Oh, okay. Let's.
No, we don't have
just,
to. We can save it till next week, but
that's too long. Oh.
yeah, I'm missing my beloved Memphis Express right now. Almost had to change the time of this podcast recording because my beloved Memphis Express is playing against some other team. AAF. Let me see. Yeah, I actually watched. Let's see. Oh, against Birmingham. Ooh, yikes! 9-0. All right. Well, Memphis has to pick it up.
Birmingham.
Birmingham. Yep. Who had a? Yeah, they had a player that was just arrested in a prostitution sting.
And
it's like, all right.
Doesn't Memphis have some? Who's their coach? Because I feel like I heard something about this.
It's Mike Singletary. That's why I picked them.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. All right. We're going back into this.
Okay.
All right, guys. Change of plans because Ben brought up a good point here, and we'll spend a couple minutes on it, and then we're going to get into the meat and potatoes here.
Yeah, we got to make this quick, but
this is the last week that we can talk about football because it's our follow up to the Super Bowl. Right. And all of that jazz. So let's knock this out quick. First and foremost, most importantly, what did you think of the halftime show?
Oh, it's miserable.
It was garbage. It was so bad.
It's not. I guess it's not like a knock on Maroon 5 because they did exactly what they were expected to do.
Right.
But it was just boring and uninspiring, and they robbed me of my SpongeBob moment.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, man. Here's the thing. Nobody is ever going to top Prince playing Purple Rain in the rain. It is never going to be topped. So, like, lower your expectations. It's never going to get better than that. That's as good as it gets. Literally, you can look at that and say, this is where it peaked. It's downhill from there.
Like, yeah, Lady Gaga almost did it. She dropped in from the rafters. It was cool.
Agreed.
Like, she knocked it out of the park.
Mars is really good. I enjoyed Bruno Mars' performance. Yeah, it was good. Never going to be better than Prince hitting that solo during the rain. Yes, it's just never going to happen. Okay, now that we've established that.
Yep.
How bad are Adam Levine's tattoos?
Oh, just so dumb.
They're so bad, it's good.
Like, what? Get this sick California tattoo? Like he couldn't make it in the Red Hot Chili Peppers, but he really wanted to prove their commitment. So it's like, guys, I get it. I haven't done all of the drugs yet. I'll get around to it.
I never woke up under a bridge.
I want to make this down payment. I want to make this down payment on band membership dues by getting a rocker tattoo that just says California.
Yes.
It's like almost maybe.
Yeah. Have you since seen the memes from all these guys around the country that are like writing their home state on their bellies? Because it's pretty. No. I think North Carolina's was the best. He might be like 380 and wrote like North Carolina marker on his belly. So, okay. Now, on to the game. Defensive battle. Wasn't that exciting?
Everyone says it was a defensive battle, but it was just a complete disaster by both offensive lines.
Okay. All right. I can accept that.
I was watching, and they weren't picking up their assigned blockers the entire time. This is going to get into X's and O's, which I know we weren't intending to talk about, but they just weren't picking up who they were intending to pick up the entire time. And there seemed to always be a push from the defensive line. And of course, the defensive lines are great, but the offensive lines for both teams played horribly. And it was making the defenses look good because the quarterback was pressured on every single drop back, it seemed. Like they didn't have 3 seconds to wait in the pocket. They couldn't do a 5-step drop. When they had 5 steps, there were defensemen and offensive linemen in their face, and they had to scramble or just get rid of it. And that's why Jared Goff looked like he had no idea what was going on. It's because he had to just throw ducks out there the entire time to somehow get it over his inept offensive linemen.
Mm-hmm.
If any offensive lineman would like to come on the show and discuss your performance in the Super Bowl, we are willing to fight you.
Would love to have MVP for the Super Bowl, graduate from my alma mater, Kent State. Gotta love a guy that takes steroids and grows a big beard.
There you go. So, yep. The Patriots again, still and some more cheaters. That's how Rosie got dragged into the mini episode.
Yeah.
So,
So aside from that, is there anything? Well, you wanted to talk about the what is it? The AAF that just started?
AAF, the Alliance of American Football, the greatest football organization founded in 2019.
So
it was actually a good game.
Okay. I know very little just from what I've seen on social media. So do you want to, take 5 minutes here and explain it a little bit?
All right. 8-team league founded by Charlie Ebersol, the guy who went in halfway with the XFL in 2000. Yeah, I think it was just 2000. This is a new league, still 11 on 11, still 53-man rosters, very familiar to the NFL. And it's I think it's more of a shot at having a minor league or a farm system than it is a direct rival to the NFL. Obviously, it's being played in spring. Yesterday or Saturday was their first game. I did get to watch the San Diego Fleet play against the San Antonio Commanders. There it is, San Antonio Commanders. And it was a decent game. Like there was a pretty high quality of play. It seemed to be moving quickly. They have a few different rule changes that help. So they have like a booth review pretty much on all challengeable things. That's an official booth review. They have their camera angles. They're in charge of that. So cool. We have like the whole challenge thing, the whole bobbled ball, the whole everything. Like that's taken care of. There are no kickoffs because kickoffs are pointless and they just injure people.
Yeah.
So
are they just starting from the 20?
It's the 20 or the 25. I don't remember which, but yeah, they're just starting as if it were a touchback, which the majority of kicks in the NFL are now. So why are you even doing that? There is an option to do an onside-er. It's not going to be as concealed or as concealable as it would be in the NFL. I still don't know how those rules work, but there are positive rule changes that are involved in this. There is a high quality of play. They're pulling from different colleges. They're pulling from different NFL teams and CFL teams. So a team like, I think the Green Bay Packers are going to Salt Lake City. So if you have a practice squad guy that was cut, maybe an older veteran that got cut, whatever it may be, all of these 8 teams in the AAF have NFL franchises that they can pull from. So, whether that's Salt Lake, which we have, they get to pull from the Packers, the Vikings, the Seahawks, and someone else. I forget who. But it's going to be faces people are familiar with. You can follow along college teams because college teams are also assigned to AAF teams. So if you're a big Alabama fan and you want to follow your Alabama players, congratulations, you're also a Memphis Express fan. And it's just a good way to keep people involved in that way. So, all in all, pretty good first showing. There were some big hits, there were some good plays. It didn't look like it was completely inept like the XFL was. It was still a professional production. It was on CBS, it was online, streaming live, no interruptions. It was perfect.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So, right, as an
probably
alternative to
a little,
fall football, it's great.
yeah. Yeah, and then having the associations with the NFL teams is pretty cool. But I will miss He Hate Me, so that'll take it back there.
Yeah,
Good old Rod Smart. So
that was just an absolute showcase of a man right there.
yes, yep. So, all right, guys. Now we really are going to take our little pause for the cause. We'll be right back and get into an actual health and fitness related topic. So, guys, stay with us. Longest intro ever. 34 minutes, 8 seconds. All right, here we go. What time is it? Yep, so I'll have to wrap this up soon. All right, guys, we are back. And like we said earlier, we had this scheduled to have an author come on and talk about her book and things like that. It didn't quite work out. It does get a little dicey trying to line schedules and things like that up. So we are going to try to make that happen in the future. But for now, Ben and I kind of I think we've got a pretty good idea here and something that we're going to talk about. So what I like to do, and I know you do this as well, Ben, is just kind of go on to Google, and you go on to, Google Scholar and things like that, and search different research and science coming out that's related to health and wellness and weight loss. Sometimes I just like to plug it into Google and see what the latest shit show might look like. So I took some time and went into the search bar there and searched weight loss. And one of the articles that came up was the diet failed. Now what? Starting out good for me. That's something that catches my attention. And it's something that we talk about on here because a lot of the time diets do fail, or do they? Right? We get started. We're hot and bothered after New Year's. We're ready to go and we're excited. We're ready to get this weight off and start working on our summer body. 3 to 4 weeks into it, if we're lucky, sometimes things happen. The diet doesn't work, or does it? So I pulled this article up, and it's by a Masters of Science registered dietitian, Sally Kuzmachek, and she's in my backyard here from Columbus, Ohio. So I start reading it, and I can't really get past the second sentence here.
Well, I'm going to count off the words again because I think that's the bigger issue. Is that not only is it the second sentence, but it was what, like 4 words, and you had an issue with it?
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Well, now I'll take it back. There's a sentence here.
Okay.
If you started a diet full of hope and gusto, but are now picking up the pieces, you may feel like you failed. So let me be clear. You didn't fail. The diet failed you. So for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to camp out on that sentence right there. So let me be clear. You didn't fail. The diet failed you. I have several issues with this statement, but as always, because you articulate things so much better than I do, because you are everybody's favorite, because you're basically the host, even though I introduce you as my co-host every week, I'm going to toss this over to you, let you expand on this, give me your thoughts, and let's have a conversation about it. So let me be clear. You didn't fail. The diet failed you.
Every time you finish reading that, I just have a visceral response like, nope, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. It is just like, it's a tangible, visceral response that you're blaming something outside of it. And saying the diet failed you, it's like, no, the diet works. And I know you had the other article that we could have talked about where it was 16 ways to lose weight. It's like, no, there's one. Guys, there's one. It's all the same. Like we know what it takes to lose weight. We know what diets work. It's pretty much all of them if implemented correctly. It's like that diet failed no one. You failed yourself. You know exactly what to do. It's not that hard. If you failed a diet, it is no one's fault. It is nothing's fault but your own. Cool. Like I've done it, I've failed diets or whatever. Take responsibility. You know damn well what you're doing that is adding up to this difference.
Hmm.
Whether whether it's cheating on your diet, whether it's not measuring your things correctly, so it can be inadvertent. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
with
Yep. That's a great point.
Yeah, with people that are, if you want to do the keto thing and you're substituting or you're doing bulletproof coffee, so you're putting butter in your coffee for some whatever reason, um, that's something that is easy to mismeasure. Having a tablespoon or a tablespoon and a half of butter, it's going to add up calories. If you're putting extra oil in things to supplement for your fats, if you're not measuring it precisely every single time, that's going to add up. And somehow you're surprised you gain weight when you're using these improper measurements. And as we've done before, or as we've talked about before, people underestimate how much they eat
Hmm.
fairly consistently. As dieters eyeballing things, I think it's what was the difference? About 20%.
Yes.
It was a significant difference in what you estimate versus what you actually take into your body. This
As
is not
well as underestimating how much you actually move. I think
right.
is another probably number two of those issues. Go ahead.
Right. So this is not the diet failing. This is not the diet failing you. This is you not doing your job.
Mhm.
And
And
as much as you want to point the finger, like, bring it right back to you because you're the one that did it.
yeah, so and I'm going to try not to take a long about approach here to explain this, but we reference this guy all the time, Mr. Jocko Willink. And even though, like, I think it's kind of goofy to take pictures of your watch all the time, like, we get it. All right. You're up before all of us. Um, the thing that I really do buy into is extreme ownership. 100%. Now, maybe there's some outliers, like, okay, disease, illness, things like that.
Right.
Like, I'll take those out of the equation. Um, 100% ownership and responsibility for the situation that you find yourself in is, I would say, like 80% of the time applicable to whatever situation you're facing. So my wife and I were having this conversation about our kids, and like our daughter does really good in school and she works really hard. She likes doing her homework. My son, not so much. He'd rather be playing games, running around, being a boy. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, well, how much of what we do is going to matter? And I'm like, all of it, because he is our child. Like,
Right.
we have to own this. If he is dicking around in school and not doing, it's on us. It's not, don't expect his teachers to fix that, the administration to fix that, society to fix that. That is up to us. Own it. Like, we have to do something different. Um, so the same thing when it comes to your diet or your weight loss. I don't even like the word like diet. Your eating habits. Okay, uh, own it. Okay, it didn't work. Well, it's because I'm sensitive to carbohydrates. This and that. I gotta have my pre-workout. No, own it. It didn't work because you didn't do something right. We are so passive. Not just. I'm not talking like I'm just saying people in general now. Like, we want to feel sorry for ourselves, place the blame on other things. It was the diet's fault. It's the teacher's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's no, own it and fix it. Okay. We didn't lose weight. Great. You can learn some things from that. Okay. You're not where you want to be. What are some things that worked? Let's fix this. What are we doing wrong? And it's like you said, you rattled off 3 or 4 things right there. Are you measuring correctly? Are you putting butter in your coffee? You can't figure out where these extra calories are coming from. Okay, take a good hard look in the mirror, stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Like, butter has a lot of calories and it's pretty dense there.
Right.
Maybe let's not drink that. If you want to drink it, make it work. Figure it out. Track your stuff. This is not things that people want to hear, and I get that because I was in that situation before. Like, I'm not fat. I'm bulking up for powerlifting. Okay, you're really strong, but you're super fat, and your numbers at the doctor reflect that. Okay, I'm 70 pounds
What
heavier
those
than I
fake
should be
numbers
right
are.
now. Like, What's that?
Oh, just a doctor's office, a
Yes.
squat rack, bench, putting up big numbers
E-
everywhere, man.
Exactly. Yep. Setting PRs, bro. Look, I'm 70 pounds heavier right now than I should be. And this shit did not sneak up on me. I knew all that beer I was drinking in the summertime. I knew all of the Mexican I was eating in the summertime. I knew it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. And now, like, I'm looking at myself, like, not super happy about it. Like, your underwear flips over when you sit down. Like, if you're a fat guy, you know what I'm talking about. Like, the little band around your underwear
Oh
like,
yeah,
snaps down. Yeah, that should wake you up that you are not doing something right. The diet didn't fail you. You are failing at your goals. Okay, that's the cold hard truth of it. All right, we're into February now. We're out of January in the whole honeymoon session where we're feeling good about ourselves. We're fired up. Okay, it's time for some accountability. It's time to own it and be responsible. Yes, I still think you can learn from it. You can go back and redo your plan of attack here, but it's not on anybody else. It's not on this book that you read. It's not on the podcast that you listen to, your friends at the gym, whatever. Like, it's not okay. Don't feel sorry for yourself. Get up and let's figure it out, right? I mean, that can
exactly.
basically wrap this whole thing up. So what I want to do here is, and we'll wrap this up soon. Um, so she has 4 things you can do right now, which I agree with one of them, 2 of them. No, I guess I agree with 3 of them, but the first one is what I'm really taking issue with here. So to start this out, understand that it's not your issue. The problem isn't you, it's the diet. Make that your mantra when you're feeling defeated. Really believe it. That's garbage. Throw that out. It's completely wrong. Like, if you want, that's just, go ahead.
Hey man, when I was, gaining all that weight back, and when I was sneaking up on 220, it was not me that was the issue. It was the extra 3 scoops of chips that they would give me at Moe's because I asked for it. They didn't restrain me.
Yes.
It's not my problem that I ate it. I'm not going to leave food out there. If
Yeah.
if there's
Right.
all this food, that's a waste. It was someone else's problem, and I fully agree with that number one statement. It was not your problem. It was completely the diet.
And here's the thing, this is the whole overarching problem right now. Like, we want to shift blame from everything for everything, like, so it doesn't come back on us, so we don't have to feel bad. But my problem with this is, can I use this argument if I go out drinking tonight and just get completely shit-faced, try to drive home, drive my car through somebody's house? Can I shift that blame? Dude, it's not my fault. Like, it's Budweiser's fault for putting alcohol in that beer. It's the bartender's fault for serving. No, that's your
Should have built
fault.
your house
And
there.
exactly. You know what I mean? Like, stop shifting the blame so much. Like, it's okay. All right. It's all right to kind of feel bad about it a little bit because
Just we're back on the diet thing.
yes,
Not,
yeah, I'm away from the DUI and stuff like that. It's okay to to feel bad about or just failing in general. Like, you should feel bad about that because that's what's going to
yeah,
motivate you to move a little bit more, to work a little bit harder, right?
yeah, but it feels bad to
Now
feel bad, man.
it does, right? And we don't like that in 2019. Everybody should be happy, farting out rainbows and playing touch vote with everybody. So unfortunately, that just doesn't work. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with these issues. But her next point here, pinpoint what didn't work for you. Was there simply not enough food to sustain you? Were the meal plans full of foods you just don't like very much? Did it require too much meal prep that you felt stuck in the kitchen? Did you end up feeling isolated from family dinners? Those are things. Now, here's where we get back on this shit show here. Those things don't make you a failure. They make the diet incompatible with your life, which kind of goes back to all of any other episode we've ever done in the history ever, to where it shouldn't be a diet. Track your calories, make things work for your life. Like, this is day one stuff. But I mean, she's probably got 2 million downloads on this. Salvage something that did. Did you find a great fish recipe? Discover that you actually like green smoothies. Realize that you don't need a late night snack every evening after all. Even if that diet wasn't good for you in the long run, there might be a few healthy habits you can take away from it. Completely agree there. And you've talked about that with your meal prep, and beans and rice are I like eating bacon. I can eat a couple pieces of bacon every day and lose weight. Find things that work. Use what you learned. Every experience teaches us something. Maybe you learn that you don't want to stop eating grains forever, that writing down everything you eat triggers obsessive thinking, or that you just don't like meat enough to follow a very high protein diet. Take what you learned from your diet attempt and move forward, wiser and knowing yourself a little bit better. Then the next time the diet comes around and you're lured in by big promises and dramatic testimonials, you can draw from this experience and make a better decision for you. Kind of agree with that, but I think she said the same thing 3 different times. So yeah, I'm kind of shitting on her a little bit, but that's okay. But the big overall message here for us is you've got to own it, right? Like, you've got to own gaining too much weight. And you and I both had our kind of come to Jesus moment a few months ago where, like, I knew I was letting myself slip. I knew you were probably the same way because we just weren't taught. Like, it was just things we weren't bringing up on here anymore. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean? I'm sitting here thinking, man, I hope Ben doesn't ask about meal prep this week or getting to the gym.
Good. Cool. Me
Yeah,
too.
everything's good. All right on, man. Let's get into something else. But we owned it. We talked about it, and we both made adjustments, and now we're moving in the right direction. So many times, and I mean, get on social media, turn on the news, whatever. Everybody just wants to be a victim of their circumstances. It's not our fault. McDonald's coffee was hot. Who would have thunk it? I don't want to keep bringing it up, but I mean, own it. Extreme ownership. You were responsible for the situation that you find yourself in. Granted, there's some extenuating circumstances there, but for the majority of us, I think that's relatable. I think that's what works. And if it wasn't for that, I mean, you'd be at 250 right now, and I'd be back to 300 probably by this point. So I don't want to harp on it forever. It was just I got triggered by this article, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. What's your final thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. We just get into this cycle of self-preservation, and I think that's the root of the issue is it's immediate self-preservation and gratification over long-term success. It is far easier to say, I did well, but my diet didn't. It satisfies your need for validation at that point. It shifts the blame to someone else so you don't feel attacked or you don't feel like you have these shortcomings, and it turns into an issue with you if you really face the reality of the situation. That's extremely difficult. It's again something that you and I face, and we have problems with it, which is why we are here doing this. It's a very real thing. It's easy to say, hey, we've got these issues, just get out there and do them. But the natural tendency is to protect yourself immediately, and oftentimes that is at the cost of this long-term success. So if you can find it in yourself to have that strength to get past the I feel bad phase and make a good 2-week run straight, take some ownership, that's really all it is. It's gonna suck for 2-3 weeks. And that's fine. It will. But you got to get back there and do it. Because if you're not working at it actively, it's just going to keep slipping and slipping and slipping and get away from you.
Yeah. And the thing is, yes, if you continue to have this mindset where it's not my fault, I mean, it was my boss, it was my coworker, it's the teacher, it's the kids that my kid hangs out with. It's not me, it's the diet. It bleeds into every other area of your life. But what I have found, because I've been there, I mean, I don't know if you have, but I've had that whole victim mentality where it's like, I'm stuck at this job and I just can't get up because I have to do it for everybody else. And no. And then you step out and you're like, holy shit, I'm okay. Like, I can do this. Like, I've been there. I had several years before my wife and I had kids where I did that whole victim mindset thing. And now I'm not saying I'm perfect at it, but when you start to adopt that extreme ownership where everything you're responsible for everything that's in your life or happening to you right now, and you start to be a little bit more proactive about the decisions that you're making, or you think them out a little bit more rather than just the sense of gratification or whatever great feeling that might come from eating that burrito or eating that third handful of chips or whatever. You start to think a little bit further down the road, like, okay, it's Tuesday, it's trivia night. These pretzels would be great right now, but how's that going to feel on Sunday, right? And it's not that I'm giving them up forever, but I am going to give them up for right now until it makes a little bit more sense for me in my life. So thinking about things a little bit more further ahead, maybe a little bit more down the road, and owning the decisions that you're making right now, it will start to bleed into every other point in your life, like raising your kids, dealing with your spouse, going to work, things like that. At least that's what I found for me. And like I said, I'm not perfect at it. I'm getting better. I hope to continue to get better. But shit like this, where you have a registered dietitian coming out and saying that it's not your fault, that's not helping the cause. That's not moving us forward as a society. That's why we have so many belly acres on social media and things like that. So we can do better. You can do better. I can do better. Let's do better this week. Anything else, bud?
No, that's great.
All right, man. Well, I think we did a pretty good job salvaging this episode. I hope it helps people. I really do like just kind of getting on there and seeing what the mainstream bullshit fitness industry is putting out on a daily basis. So that was kind of fun. So what's next week look like for you, man? What do you got going on? What can we expect to hear from you on Thursday?
So I think I'm doing it. I'm finally committing to the mini episode on the strongman. Finally.
Okay.
After hyping it up for a while, like I felt a calling this week that I had to talk about Rosie and her dirty cheating in the Boston Marathon, which was really a hilarious story, all in all.
It was.
Because like really, you're trying to sell 2 kilograms of cocaine. Love it. This is like 3 years after your face has been on the news literally everywhere for cheating. Oh, it was fantastic.
It was good.
But yeah, gonna get around to Apollon. First things first, gonna figure out how to say that name correctly. Then still probably get it wrong, but yeah, we'll do that. And I've got to cook some food up tonight and get prepared that way. But it worked out last week. It did work this week, or will work this week, and I'm looking forward to it.
Good deal, man. How has your training and everything been going? Because we haven't talked about that much. Or should we save that for the next episode?
Can do it quick. I mean, I haven't been as good as I want to be, obviously, but what I have been doing is just sneaking in reps with all my clients. Like if they're doing curls, I'm doing curls. If they're doing shoulder press, I'm doing shoulder press, which is cool that I have clients that are still willing to let me do that. At least it's, some of my longer ones that I've been with for 3 years. Like they're fully on board with me just getting a lift in alongside of them. So that's a lot of fun, but it's not as directed as I want it to be. And obviously it's not at the intensity that it needs to be, but it is still a non-zero number. It is still positive effort. And I'm still working on something as opposed to working on nothing. So that might, again, be me satisfying myself saying like, no, I'm doing something. It's great. It's not what it needs to be. I understand that, but it is better than what it was in late 2018. And taking that small victory is better than no victory at all.
Absolutely. Yeah. And maybe here in the next couple of weeks, we'll give you some time to kind of establish yourself. Maybe because this is something we haven't really done, is kind of talk about our own routines a little bit when it comes to actually getting into the gym and talking about what we're doing. We can write it down for a few weeks. And then if that's something you guys would be kind of interested in, because I do, like, it kind of goes in spurts, but I'll get messages on Facebook like, hey, what's your programming look like? What's your rep scheme? Stuff like that, percentage, all of those things. So that might be kind of fun to get into and talk about. So maybe here in the future, we'll get into that. So, all right, man. good episode. I enjoyed it. I like ranting like that and shitting on people. I hope I didn't shit on her too much. I feel like we can do better than that. So
yeah, raise the standard.
exactly. That's what we're here for. So, all right, guys. As always, we greatly appreciate it. Find us on social media. There's links to all of our stuff in the show notes. Please leave us a review on iTunes. That definitely helps us out with what we are trying to do and what Ben has been working on behind the scenes. It does not take that long. Leave us a 5-star, leave us a 1-star, talk shit, I don't care. It all helps. That's what the beautiful thing about iTunes is. So with that, make sure you subscribe. That way you don't miss the Strongman episodes that will be coming up this Thursday with Ben's mini episodes. So we appreciate it. Everybody have a great week, and we'll see you next time. Perfect.